Architectural Builder's Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
We're looking for some Rixson pivot hinges. You know, the top and bottom mount with an intermediate.
Offset pivots, okay.
Yes, sir. And I got a pretty heavy door. It's a 3.0 by 9.4, and it's going to have some heavy glass in the center. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm saying the part number right. Is it a 162 and a 202?
I don't know. What pivot do you want?
Well, I want a top, a bottom, and an intermediate. So is that a model 147 that carries a 600-pound weight load?
147 is a good part number. But just so I understand my role in the conversation, what should I be doing? Suggesting one?
No, well, you can. What I want to know, do you stock them, or how long does it take to get them is, I guess, the most important thing.
Which one? The 147?
Yes.
Yeah, I stock 147, sure.
Okay, and what kind of weight load does that carry?
147 is good for 600 pounds. Per inch and 3/4.
Okay. Okay. I have a 2-inch door, but it would still work, right?
Well, you can chisel that, you'll prep that where you like. It's just it's not going to be where the manufacturer would want it to be positioned. Ideally, you'd have a modified piece of hardware for that extra 1/4 inch.
Do you have something for a 2-inch thick door?
Not on the shelf.
No. Okay. But it would work? Would that one work for us?
How heavy is your door?
Well, I wouldn't know it's a solid core door that is a 3.0 by 9.4, but it's going to end up getting a piece of 3/4 inch glass. Oof. About half that size.
Oof. Is it 3/4 clear tempered?
Well, we think it's going to be laminated. I don't have the actual glass spec yet.
Dang. The glass is heavier than the door. Like 50% heavier than the door per square foot.
It could
Mamma
be.
mia. Yeah.
That's why I'm going for a heavy duty hinge.
Well, 147. That doesn't get anyone excited. That's not that heavy.
That's not. It says 600 pounds. That's heavy to me.
Nah, I got a pivot behind me that'll swing 3,000 pounds.
Well, do you have one on the shelf that you recommend that will work?
Well, the bottom line is even if the door was all 3/4 glass, I mean the 147 won't even break a sweat. So you're good. A 147 would be a great choice for that.
Okay, and now that would be the top, bottom, and do I do a M19 just for added strength for the center?
Well, an M19 ain't going to do anything for strength. If you want some load bearing, it'd be an M. It would be a. Oh yeah, I think would it be an M19? Let's take a look. Is that load bearing, or is it an ML19? I forget. Bear with me. Yeah, the internet's telling me 3/4 glass is 9.1 pounds per foot. So yeah, you wouldn't want an M19. I mean, you could if you wanted load bearing. If you wanted something rated for the weight, it would be an M190 is what you would want. Your pivot hardware, your doorway doesn't call it out. Doesn't say to have it. But you would certainly want intermediates regardless of load bearing or not. You would want, the textbook would of course tell us 2 is what the quantity would be.
And with it being a 2-inch thick door, you don't think I'll have any problems with that?
I don't think you'll have any problems with that. If you were designing this, then you would order the hardware correctly and specify the door thickness. If what you need is on the has to come off the shelf, then there's no reason to talk about it working or not. You just have to hope it will. But I'm saying that it will. It's, you've got a 1/4 inch, but you're really splitting that in half. So we're really splitting hairs.
I mean, I could make the door 1 3/4 if that's going to be a better option.
How are you going to hold that glass in?
It's going to slide into a pocket, to be honest with you.
Oh, is it a stile and rail door?
No, it's a slab door that I'm putting a veneer face on it with a couple of pieces of metal inlays, and then I'm going to be hogging out with, a tenant machine about a piece that's somewhere around 18 by 70 inches.
Yeah.
And then that'll slide in, and then I got to cap it off with a channel.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just going to drop it in place. You're not going to slide it in.
Well, it's on the edge. It's on the side, so yeah, I'm going to drop it in with it laying down. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Glass runs all the way to the end, edge of the door. Awesome.
Yes, exactly. So when you walk up to it, you can see through the center of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I personally wouldn't change your door design for this. Okay. But if you have the lead time, then order it for a 2-inch thick door. Just, it's one less sort of Damocles that's out there in the universe.
I really don't. We don't have the lead time, because I'm going to ask, would you be able to do it in a week or less?
Just regular stock material. Assuming your finish is, somewhat pedestrian, we could definitely do off-the-shelf material.
Okay. So what kind of, you're finished. I'm not going to see much of it. You don't have it in black, do you?
Yeah, black is so common nowadays. Black shouldn't be a problem.
All right. You want to look to see if you have that, and I'll buy that off you. That's it?
Yeah. 147. Forgive me, sir.
Of course, I got 2 doors, so I'm going to need enough for 2 doors.
Are they a pair?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, computer says we have all that stuff.
Okay. So I'd get 2 tops, 2 bottoms, and 2 intermediates, correct?
Well, the textbook would say 4 intermediates, but I'm not the intermediate pivot police, if you follow me.
I tell you what, let's do 4 if you have them. That way no one can say that I didn't at least try.
Yeah, right on. Is this just something that I should ship to you?
Yes, sir. I'll give you an order number, all that good stuff. We're still on terms with you guys and all that?
Yeah, of course. Yes, sir. I'm ready for a PO number.
Okay, hold on. Let me get to that. This is a new job. VIP Lounge. So, look at that. It's a first order number. That is order 23014-0001.
Okay. I've got your email, and I'll get the order entered and send you a confirmation very shortly.
Okay. And you think those will go out this week?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, Rich. I really appreciate your help, and thank you very much.
Thank you for calling, sir. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Let's decode that conversation just a little bit, why there may be a hang-up over the door thickness, and let's talk about those intermediate pivots as well in terms of how many you would require for that 9'4" height, and then the glass itself. Let's talk about that now. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, let's decode that conversation a little bit. So, the client originally mentioned a part number that I don't believe was actually a good part number, but the client had already done some research and knew that a 147 is what they had in mind. So sometimes when you speak to customers, they're a bit cagey. They don't let on that they've already done a lot of research. They want to have you tip their cards first tell me what I need, and then they'll bounce their idea off of you. I think it's a good way to proceed if what you want to do is validate your own research. But I also don't want to reinvent the wheel. Based on weight, 3/4 inch glass. Jumping ahead a little bit, I pulled this up. 3/4 inch glass per square foot, 9.1. I'm assuming that's just typical tempered glass. At the end of the day, I don't actually know. Glass thickness, 9.1. Glass weight, approximate load limits. So we don't know if that's Lamy or if that's tempered or float glass. There shouldn't be any weight difference there. But I would think that it's a reasonable estimation as to what glass weighs. Now that door should be about 6.5 or 7 pounds per square foot. So I said this material was heavier, approaching 50% heavier. So assuming that it was all glass, you've got 3 times 9.5 in terms of square foot. 3 times 9.5, it's not quite 9.5, times 9.1, 260 pounds is what you're dealing with. So we're back at our Rixson 147, and we're not even breaking a sweat. Not even breaking a sweat. I wasn't sure what the top pivot was included. It is a 180. That's their standard top pivot. And when you order pivot sets, you don't need to declare, and we'll have a follow-up technical talk on pivots, you don't need to declare the top pivot. You don't need to declare the offset, because certain things are understood as part and parcel of the part number. When you say 147, it's going to be 3/4 offset. When you say 147, it's going to include the 180. When you say 147, it's going to be 600 pounds. If you want to change any of that, like change this top pivot, which you could, and there are reasons why you would. If you wanted to go with an 1.5 offset, which they do make available, 1.5 offset, you can, but you declare that. But if you leave that out, that's what you're getting. Now, let's take a look. Application 147. They don't indicate to us a restriction in terms of door thickness, or a limitation, or declaring this is for a particular door thickness, whereas for other hardware they most certainly do. And an example of that I want to show you. I thought it would have been much closer. Okay, so on an H117, an H117 is a center hung pivot for a 1,000-pound door, and they don't declare door thickness here. Yeah, no, they do. Forgive me. 2-inch thick doors minimum. If you have an 1 3/4 thick door, you'll use the 587 arm. That's just, knowledge that I happen to know. So on the 147, there's no declaration in terms of a door thickness, although looking at the template would be a tremendous way to go. Let's get to the Rixson website, and we'll pull up the template. Three-quarter offset. Okay. 147 pivot set, 3/4 offset template. I'm not sure the difference between the two. You'd want to look at both of them. Okay, so I don't see anything here problematic about door thickness. So, speaking about door thickness, what's really happening here is when you have a thicker door than standard, the center line of these screw holes, or the area that's really the load-bearing aspect, is now not where it was designed to be or engineered to be. That's what I'm driving at. So this would have been designed for an 1 3/4 thick door. They wouldn't have had necessarily published testing for unusual door thicknesses. But when I was saying to the customer that the hardware should be ordered based on door thickness, it is because you want to be able to have the arm in the proper location based on the door thickness, because you're dealing with really heavy material. And that's the crux of the matter. You're dealing with extremely heavy material. Now, in our instance, we can kind of, assuming that this is drawn to scale, it kind of looks like there's more wood here left over than there is over here. So a door that's an additional 1/4 inch, it's going to hang off back here a little bit more, assuming that we're observing the 3/4 inch offset. The vertical axis of pivoting to the face of the door is 3/4 offset. If you're trying to modify that or manipulate that somehow, all bets are off. But that's where the logic comes in, because a thicker door is going to present its load to the hardware in a different place. The hardware is rated for double the amount that the door will likely be. So I'm saying, based on my experience of knowing that people take stock material like a 147 and they install it on 2 1/4 inch thick doors and it's always worked perfectly, it's probably because the angle we're taking is using a piece of hardware that's so beyond the anticipated weight of the door that we're really not sure about it. If we went back to the factory, we would be defining what we want in terms of the thickness. And what I mean by that is, I was expecting something to happen there. There it is. $147. Okay. $147. Here's a price list. By the time you're seeing this video, it probably won't apply. But looking for a reference to unusual door thicknesses. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so what we're looking at here is extended spindles, longer top pins. That all applies to your 147. There's a reference to SPLO there, and at a very minimum, you'd want to define the door thickness in your part number. So offset pivot 147, you would define the handing, you would define the fasteners that you want, you would define the finish, but you'd also define the door thickness. So when that order went into the factory, they might come back and say, oh no, the standard hardware is fine for that. Or they may say, what's the door weight? And they may reply that it's fine for that. But at the end of the day, it's declaring what size that you actually need for the hardware, because again, you're going to want that bottom arm and the 180 at the top positioned in the correct place. They literally may need to give you an arm based on that unusual door thickness. And it's been done in the past, so you want to declare that. So we're kind of using distributor logic 101 when it comes to saying it's going to be okay. Now, the client also talked about the intermediate pivots. He had said M19 for the additional weight, and I initially said, oh, the M19 is not load-bearing, and my muscle memory was correct. It's not load-bearing. The M190 is load-bearing. Well, M190 costs more money, and in this case, I couldn't really justify spending more money because you're well within the limits. What you're using the intermediate pivot for is literally to keep the door in place so it doesn't warp or bevel at all. Now, the M19 or the M190. Okay, here it is. Unlabeled for fire doors, NFPA 80 requires an intermediate pivot for every additional 30 inch of door height over 60 inch. So if you've got a 60 inch door, you don't need an intermediate. But when you get to 6.8 or 7.0 doors, where you're basically 90 inch and less, you've got one hinge in the middle, or one intermediate pivot. Well, this door is 112 inch, so 60 plus 30 is 90. That gives us one. Well, we're greater than 90, so 90 plus 30 is 120. We've not gotten past 120 inch, so we do need two of them. Now they're saying that labeled doors require, NFPA requires it, National Fire Protection Agency, document 80. And if your code has adopted NFPA 80, well then you have to follow that. But every door manufacturer is going to say the same language. For over 60-inch, add an additional hinge, and then for every 30-inch thereafter, add another one. And that's the logic with that. The client wanted black. Well, black has been popular for maybe 8 years now. It's 2020, late 2023. Black's been popular for maybe since the mid 2010s. However, what I like to say is, if we go back in time, and this happens to be a sister company to Rixson, Yale, if we go back to 1905, black was as common as satin chrome has been over the decades. And you pull up, a catalog that's 120 years old, and yeah, you're going to see black as a most standard finish on their door lock hardware. Now, for sure, somewhere in here they'll have their finishes listed, and this is well before the advent of the U.S. system. So black and a U.S. number would be U.S. 19 or BHMA 622, depending on the process. I was hoping for a finish chart and I don't see it. But when I search the word black, it comes up a whole mess of times. So if you go and look through catalogs, you're going to find lots of references to black that are old like this, to be sure. Okay, the rest of the conversation has been covered. The intermediate pivots, the quantity, the weight of the 147, talking about the glass. The only other thing I'd like to mention is it did sound quite neat in terms of the client's application of what they were doing with the glass. And you may have seen doors like this, where the door is going to be, the door is going to be like this, but the door is really going to be like this. I think in this client's instance, I forget how wide he said it was. Then you've got the glass here. It's all going to be glass, and probably if we're looking at it this way, or if we're doing a AA cross section, that is going to probably be rabbited or pocketed like this. And the client's going to slide the glass in and then figure out some sort of channel out here. It's going to route that in. I would think structural lumber or something is going to be in here that's going to allow that glass to just slide in this pocket. Pretty neat. That's what I was envisioning, because you do see glass running like that. That's going to be a cool door. I would be building that wood door out of timber, structural lumber is what I'd be building it out of. I'm a little concerned over the amount of warp, or not warp, but twist. I'm not sure what the pull handle hardware is. I don't know what he said. It could have been narrow light, but it seemed like it was running all the way to the outside. Neat door. It's nice to be able to. It's nice to be brought into conversations with clients where they have an unusual application. All right, let's wrap up this video on camera. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So if you have any questions on selection for Rixson pivots, feel free to reach out to us. Rixson also does an exceptional job when it comes to that. I don't know if there is still a single person in charge of design or application recommendations. There was at one point. There was a lady that worked. She may still work at for Assa Abloy at Rixson. But when you had a door, width, height, weight, she was the design specialist. Those conversations, those phone calls, those inquiries went through her so that you could get the proper factory approved pivot for the application. Because with Rixson, it's the Wild West sometimes with people using that material in ways that aren't in the catalog. It seems to always work, but it's not in the catalog. And by the way, that 3,000 pound pivot I mentioned to the client is right in that box at the tip of my finger. That's a center hung SPLO. I forget the part number of it, but well, I just tell you what it is. It's an SPLO, so that you could look it up. Rixson SPLO, special layout. That's an SPLO. I'll know it when I search because of the $10,000 price. That's an SPLO-3712. If you look up that item in our site and then look at the technical drawing, you'll see a truly epic pivot. I think that's the heaviest that they manufacture. So any questions on design application, obviously reach out to us. We're your distributor, or reach out to the factory, whichever you like. I'm more prone to be flexible with the conversation, leveraging my experience of what I've seen installed, rather than the factory being completely mandated by what's in the catalog, as are we. But I can say, well, I've seen it installed this way, it seemed to work. Here's more data that the factory is not in a proper position to make any sort of recommendation other than how it's been engineered. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.